This is a winter weather alert from the Arkansas Storm Team.
Good morning to you. I am Mitch McCoy. I hope you're staying warm out there. It is certainly bitterly cold as we are continuing that winter storm warning. It is in full effect. And it is now for several more hours. I want to bring you right now to a live picture. This is near downtown Little Rock. You can see traffic moving along at this hour, but there's only one lane available on Interstate 630 right now, and roads at times are treacherous, and you are at this point asked to avoid travel. We are not seeing any major traffic accidents right now. But I want to get at least through some of these cars here so you can see a picture of, and I think the camera is somewhat deceiving. I think cars are going a little bit slower than what they look like here on camera. I just got into the station myself. It was a slow go. I was able to get here. I have an SUV, but for folks that drive maybe cars, smaller vehicles, it may be more of a tricky commute. I want to talk about rolling power outages. This is the big topic of conversation, not just here in Arkansas, but it is the topic of conversation across the entire state. And a lot of that has to do with the cooler weather, the cooler temperatures, and more people are using Entergy right now. I want to bring in Brandi, thank you for joining us today. I want to talk a little bit about these rolling power outages. What are, for folks that may not be familiar with what a rolling power outage is, this is somewhat like a forced blackout where you guys are trying to conserve power. What happened last night?
Well, that's exactly what it is. It's a forced outage that we are required to implement. It can happen quickly, and it's 100% due to demand, supply and demand. So last night, what happened is that consumers were just using a lot of electricity. It was enough to overload the system if we didn't institute an immediate outage. And so that's what we had to do. Unfortunately, we weren't able to give any advance notice because it happened so quickly, but we were fortunately able to limit it to no more than about 30 minutes for each customer. It affected about 60,000 total, but those were also quote unquote rolling. So no more than about 20,000 at a time. We implemented them at 7:03 and everybody was restored by 8:55. Again, we know it's more than inconvenient to go without power when it's so bitterly cold, but the best way to prevent any future outages like that is to just really be conservative and limit the amount of energy that we're using in our homes right now.
So I think the big question everyone wants to know is how, at least some of the questions I saw last night on social media is, when is it my turn? Is that predictable?
It's really not. It may seem random, but it's not. It's very methodical. It has to do, again, with the demand for energy. And so we saw that Little Rock Metro, of course, was affected. That's a large area, a lot of consumers. But again, we try to spread it around, and again, it's based on the grid and where it can take the load of energy that's being required at the moment. So unfortunately, again, we can't really alert most customers. We may have an opportunity to do that, but we can't promise it. So we just want you to all be prepared, like we have been talking about for the last 2 days. Have an emergency kit available, have those candles nearby that you can light quickly, have batteries and flashlights, because if it happens, it may end up being again around the same time after it's dark. So we want you to be as prepared as possible.
So I saw a question on social media last night. What's the difference between the energy being used now and the energy that would be used on a 110-degree day in Arkansas?
That's a great question. And if you'll recall, in the summertime, we often ask our consumers to limit their usage as well. And that's because people are running their air conditioners. However, heating systems take a lot more energy to control your air and your climate and the environment in your home. And unfortunately, a lot of those heating units right now are on their emergency backup, which requires a lot more energy as well. My power just blinked at home.
Oh my gosh,
I
it
don't know if you
did.
can still see me.
It did. What was that?
Well, so I live in Little Rock, but I came to stay with my family for a few days to help out with my kids who are out of school.
Yeah.
So we're in a little bit of a more rural area where the grid and the power lines are not as hardy, I guess. They did some work just down the road, but we have had some power going on and off. It's not been extended outages, but it has been blinking here where I'm staying.
Wow. Okay, so that also gives people a perspective that you yourself are also affected by some of these incidents where power might flicker.
Absolutely. I'm not getting any special treatment, I promise. You can see that I'm bundled up. We have pulled the thermostat down. The kids hadn't had a hot bath in a day or two.
Wow.
We're trying to be as conservative as possible, too. Again, it's not just for us, but for our neighbors and other customers. So, again, if we can all do our part, it will help prevent us having to do forced outages to larger groups.
Okay, so Brandi, the big question everyone wants to know, is it going to happen again tonight? A, is that even predictable? And B, what can people do if it's possible tonight to prevent that from happening again?
It is definitely a possibility. We hope we don't have to do that. But again, it's determined by the demand, the supply and the demand, and the amount of electrical load that we have to put through those power lines. So if everybody could just be really careful, go ahead and lower the thermostat. Try not to use a lot of your larger appliances right now. So, maybe again, put off that load of laundry for a day or two, let the dishes either pile up, not run the dishwasher, or maybe do them by hand. But we all can do a little to make a big difference.
Brandi, I've seen some questions on social media that relate to these rolling power outages, questioning why certain energy companies may not have been prepared for such high demand. What goes into prepping for bitterly cold temperatures like what we're experiencing now?
Well, we work to maintain and upgrade the grid and the transmission lines throughout the year. But this is just crazy. We never have weather like this, especially prolonged. If we go below freezing in Arkansas, it's maybe for a day or two. We have been under the freezing mark for about 7 days now, probably will be for a couple more. We just are not equipped to handle that kind of energy load in that kind of temperature. The cold can affect the mechanics of our equipment. It can affect our people. The linemen, the service guys who are out right now have to take breaks. They're freezing. There is always the possibility of frostbite when they're out there working on lines, not to mention the COVID protocols that we have in place. It's ironically the perfect storm right now.
Yeah, well, and you're absolutely right. Brandi, I know I have just a couple more minutes with you. Can you compare what's happening in Texas to what's happening here? What's the difference?
The difference is we're basically on different grids. They have their own electric system. We actually are kind of connected to others. We're in what's called the MISO area. So we share power grids with about 15 other states and portions of Canada. So we have greater resources and opportunities to get a generation mix. So we've been able to keep the power on mostly, whereas Texas is pretty much limited to their own supplies and their own generation. They don't talk amongst grids. We're not able to share power with them like we would with the states that are part of our MISO group.
Okay. So are other states also affected by rolling power outages as well?
Absolutely. I can speak to our sister operating companies in Entergy, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Texas, of course, even though they're on a different grid. But they have had also some forced outages in those areas, which again are our sister operating companies. But we know also in the states that touch Arkansas, who aren't Entergy companies, are also having to do those. Even within the state of Arkansas, other utilities are doing forced outages right now. So you'll see that you're not alone. It's a huge part of the country actually are being affected right now by these huge energy demands. And so we hope to be able to, again, get through it by just being as conservative as we can in our electricity usage right now.
Okay, so for folks just scrolling through Facebook, for folks maybe just getting the alert on their phone saying that we're streaming live with you about rolling blackouts or these forced power outages. Can you just recap for folks just joining us what happened last night? Could it happen again tonight?
Sure. So the reason we have been asking folks to be more conservative in their usage, to limit and restrict it, is because once we have a huge demand, we will have to shut off power just so that we don't damage equipment and cause a power failure for everyone. So that's what happened last night. We had to do smaller controlled outages. There's absolutely a possibility it could happen again, maybe not tonight, but maybe tomorrow. We have just, extremely low temperatures in the forecast for the next couple of days. The way that we can help prevent that and make the likelihood less is to be conservative right now. Maybe turn off some of those major appliances, even if you're not running the dishwasher, even if you're not running the washer and dryer. You can turn those off at the breaker so that if your power goes out and then is restored, it doesn't have a huge demand all of a sudden at everybody's home. So again, we would hope that we don't have to do that again, but it's certainly a possibility. The best way to prevent that is just to decrease your energy usage right now.
Brandi, I've seen some comments on social media about businesses that may be closed. Is Entergy able to look at some of these businesses that are closed and do a forced blackout on certain areas that wouldn't necessarily have a huge impact on day-to-day life?
We have asked a lot of our we've asked all of our industrial and commercial customers to also limit their usage right now. We know that a lot of businesses aren't operating, but the thing is that we use different materials, different wires to go to the commercial and industrial users who consume a lot of energy normally. The thing is, residential areas are not normally set up for everybody to be home running their heaters around the clock, doing dishes, doing laundry, using their hot water heater. And so I know it sounds like it would be an easy fix. It's a little more complicated than that. Know that they are also being affected and they are also asked to conserve their electricity usage right now. The rolling blackouts, for example, that we used last night did affect some commercial and industrial customers as well as residential. So I wish there was a easier fix, but we're just going to have to band together and do our best right now to control our usage. This is just unprecedented. We're talking about historical demands for electricity right now that we've not seen in Arkansas in recent memory, for sure.
And just for clarification, there are no rolling blackouts happening right now at this hour?
Absolutely not. In fact, we only have about 250 customers that are without power, and that's of course weather related. It's either they've had some damage, or that there's the cold is just affecting the mechanical things that we have to do to keep it powered. We do want you to continue to report outages. You can do that at 1-800-9-OUTAGE. You can use our app to do that as well. Go ahead and download that. Keep your phones charged for emergencies, and you can always check our outage map for outages and estimated restoration times. Right now, if anyone who's out of power, we're hoping to have restored by noon today, but we keep in mind that there is more winter weather coming our way, especially in the southern part of the state. We expect that there could be some freezing rain, and that's a whole another story than snow.
That is a whole other issue, and gosh, this week has just been an absolute blur. I know it has for you too, Brandi, as we are right in the height of Winter Storm number 2. Brandi Hinkle from Entergy, thank you for your time this morning. I really appreciate it. I know that you guys are doing everything you can to prevent these rolling outages from happening. I know that it was certainly a concern last night when all of this started. It was last minute, spur of the minute, but you guys were able to, I guess, seamlessly get it under control pretty quick.
It can seem like a long time when you're the one sitting there without power, but know that our number one priority is to have that power restored as quickly and safely as possible.
Brandi Hinkle from Entergy, thank you so much. Stay warm, my friend.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good rest of your day. We are in live continuing coverage here. Throughout the day, we will have live updates for you, both on air and online at krk.com. I want to bring up our graphic here because I want to make sure that you have everything you need to know during these rolling outages if they continue tonight. But right now, we have live updates on air and online. krk.com, fox16.com. Download our mobile phone app, the Arkansas Storm Team app, and then, of course, follow us on Facebook and Twitter. We will send alerts straight to your smartphone related to this, and, of course, breaking news coverage as it happens throughout the day. I want to bring your attention now to Interstate 40. We are following what is a traffic alert for you. We're learning right now of a towing operation. This is happening. Take a look here at the iDrive map. This is going to be happening. It looks like we're talking about the Interstate 40 right now, and it looks like we're in the westbound lane. This is going to be 2 miles west of Lone Oak. We have a towing operation underway. This is, of course, in the middle of this winter weather. Let me bring this camera up for you. You can see the snow falling at a pretty good clip out there in the middle of this towing recovery operation. You can see here on Interstate 40, only one lane of traffic is open right now. And, well, I take that back. There are 2 lanes of traffic moving, only one pathway really cleared here. You see the semi flying by that SUV there. And just keep in mind, these are dangerous conditions in the middle of winter storm number 2 here in Arkansas. I'm going to try and see if we can get another traffic camera pulled up here, because I'd like to see if we can see this towing operation here. This is the opposite direction. Doesn't look like we can see it, but you can see that snow is falling at a pretty good clip. And then let's move over to this camera. This is our Lone Oak exit camera from RDOT, and it doesn't look like we have a vantage point or a shot of that towing operation, but you can see roads are snow covered. They are slick. You are asked to stay home and just avoid travel altogether if you can. Of course, certainly the conditions are not favorable for driving right now. Let's go ahead. I want to bring you, just give you another bullseye look here at the state and what they're dealing with. If I turn off our traffic cameras, you can see there are a few different incidents being reported right now across the state. There is one, of course, we were just talking about it, Interstate 40. We have a couple different incidents in far western Arkansas. This is going to be in Howard County, Highway 278. There is a disabled vehicle, a stalled vehicle there. It's a semi-truck near Eldridge Road. It's that hill there blocking both lanes of the highway, and we have some stuff happening up in Fort Smith. For folks watching in Little Rock right now, there is a water main break up in the Heights neighborhood of Little Rock, Highway 10 near Kavanaugh. There's work being done over there. There are some significant slowdowns here. It looks like Interstate 440 near Interstate 530. Let's go ahead and try and pull up a traffic camera, see what the situation is like there. Of course, this is going to be probably just because these ramps are just snow covered right now. Here's a live look using the RDOT camera. You see a semi truck in the distance there. Things are moving slowly. Snow coming down at a very rapid pace near downtown Little Rock right now as traffic continues to move along. Roads are snow covered in the state. They are moving, however, they are just very, very slick. You are asked to avoid travel if at all possible due to this winter weather. You can see this is near Roosevelt. Again, snow covered. It looks like there's only one lane of traffic available right now. This is near downtown Little Rock. And you see this truck here getting off of the interstate, and he actually has the emergency flashers on to his vehicle because he's going so slowly. Very good choice there, because it doesn't look like that ramp has gotten any love whatsoever this morning in the middle of winter storm number 2 this week. Let's bring you, I want to just take a look at 630 here before we wrap up. 630 was an area that we had issues earlier this week, specifically this ramp right here from 630 on to Interstate 30, and it looks like things are well, we don't really have any traffic out there, but it looks like there's at least a pathway for vehicles if they have to merge on the interstate. Again, traffic, travel, you are asked to avoid it if at all possible. We have a car actually coming up right now. Let's see how this vehicle manages here on this ramp. Again, this is going to be Interstate 630 merging onto Interstate 30. So it would be if you were going from Little Rock into North Little Rock. Looks like he or she didn't have any problems whatsoever. So that is the very latest here as we continue to monitor live road conditions. Again, this is another traffic camera. This is over near downtown Little Rock as well. You can see some of the high rises in the distance there. So we will, of course, keep you updated on the changing conditions across the state. Of course, power outages, not a lot being reported right now, just a couple hundred. Brandi Hinkle from Entergy telling us that that is because of just weather in general, not really anything in particular. No rolling power outages happening at this moment. However, she says it is possible again tonight as temperatures drop later this evening, and you are asked to conserve as much energy and power as possible. That is the very latest from KRK4 and Fox 16. Again, continuing coverage continues throughout the day. Live updates beginning at noon on all Arkansas NBC stations. Of course, live updates at KRK.com, Fox16.com. Download our mobile phone app and follow us on Facebook and Twitter for live updates. For now, I'm Mitch McCoy. I hope you have a good rest of your day and stay warm. Try and stay inside if you can. Roads are just a mess. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and we'll see you again here in about an hour for another update.